into our online school fails, what I'm really excited to have them today with us, and it's called the Jump Foundation. In today's rapidly evolving world, traditional education models are increasingly challenged to equip students with the skills and resilience they need to thrive. The Jump Foundation, a global leader in experiential education, is at the forefront of this transformation. They empower students, educators, and organizations through transformative learning experiences that foster leadership, resilience, and global citizenship. So today, we're going to be joined by Justin Bedard, which I hope that I did not just destroy his name, who's the executive director of Jump, and Jake Johnson, who's the head of Jump Experiences, to address critical questions facing students, parents, and educators. We're going to explore how experiential education can re-engage disengaged teens, combat rising anxiety, ensure safe risk-taking, enhance university admissions, prepare students for future jobs, integrate into high school curricula, bridge the gap to real-world readiness, and demonstrate educational ROI and build resilience for an uncertain future. So without further ado, I'm going to add both of these gentlemen to the stage with me here. And Shazam, we see Justin and Jake. Welcome.
Hi, Stephen. How's it going?
Well, and yourself, Jake. Nice to see you as well.
Hi, Stephen. Nice to see you.
Where do I'll start with Jake. Where do I find you sitting? Are you actually in offices next to one another, or are you in different parts of the planet, or what's the deal?
We're in the same office building. I'm in a small meeting room that we reserve for external calls. I believe Justin's in his office.
Yeah, and we're both in Bangkok, just in Saf and Kwai area.
Okay, fantastic, nice. Well, so I read your introduction blurb, and we'll get to see a short video about you a little later. But Justin, I want to offer you the opportunity, give us the real world perspective. What is Jump, and how does Jump integrate or interact with learners and provide them a valuable service?
Yeah, so Jump's focus is about creating what we call transformational learning. And so these are learning moments that change a learner's perspective of who they are, who other people are, what their community is, how their community can interact, and how the world operates. And so what Jump does is we create experiences where young people go outside their normal day-to-day school, and they either adventure in an outdoor pursuits perspective, or they dive into a cross-cultural learning perspective around arts and history, or they explore sustainable development and social enterprises. So it's all about creating hands-on experiences that are embedded as part of the larger learning experience that schools are trying to create, both from a pastoral care and from a curricular perspective. So we design trips and experiences that are both on and off campus for international schools around the world. And then we also run summer programs for students to sign up for. And then we generate revenue through those programs, and we fund programs for underserved youth. So we're a nonprofit social enterprise. That's kind of the setup. And I think what's most interesting is that schools will bring us in to innovate their experiential education programs from being a normal just, hey, we're going to go on this trip and do this, to we are going to go and have intentional experiences that foster some of the skills and attributes that kids are going to need in 2023. And as the world changes with AI coming in and all of the frameworks, so schools kind of see us as a way of building some of those, schools and parents see us as a way of building some of those skills and competencies that young people will need that rote learning and academic learning don't necessarily build.
No, love it. Thanks. Jake, how do learners usually learn about you? How do they find you? I know that Justin was just saying that you partner with schools and whatnot, but are there other pathways? Are parents seeking you out for particular reasons, or is this something where it's usually a young person is going to a school and they're like, wow, hey, that's stuff that isn't offered, and this is the only way I'm going to get it? Talk to me about that.
Yeah, it's an interesting question. So we mainly market to international schools, and students usually find us through the offerings that the international school will put together for the student body using our services. With our sort of the partners that we've been working with for the longest, that we have the closest relationships with. We spend a lot of time on campus in those schools as well. And we do presentations and parent night presentations on the programs that we put together and that we will be delivering for the students. We do also have like a website, and we are on marketing channels. And here in Thailand, specifically in Bangkok, you will find us at sort of meet and greet events where we try to engage with parents as well and tell them about the different direct sign-up programs that we offer, where parents or students can sign up directly for our programs. And that would mainly be our summer and expedition programs at the moment.
Fantastic. Thanks. I really appreciate that. Justin, I'll give this one to you. We have a question from the community here. It's like, do you offer programs for younger kids, or is it only for older, more independent kids?
Yeah, so we have a spread of programming. Probably the youngest we would offer programming is grade 4 or year 3 programming. And so, yeah, we build different types of programs. Some are overnight, some are not overnight. And so that depends on the age group as well. But yeah, we have younger programming, and then we have also expeditions to Nepal and big trekking and scuba diving all over the world. So and geographically, we are based out of Bangkok, but we run programs all over Asia. We also have a base in Budapest in Hungary. So we do programming all over Europe. We also have a base in the UK where we have a team based there. And then we have an outdoor adventure center that we run in Western Canada. So different age groups and also different geographic locations.
Sure, yeah. How would a, either a teen or a parent, I guess, any student, you just mentioned, year 3, but how would a student or a parent sort of self-identify or identify for their child that jump is something that is going to be really valuable and is a great opportunity for, and I'm thinking about some of the things you mentioned, like, preparing for, uncertain situations, right? So, preparing for uncertainty, or, looking towards the next 10 to 15 years where there's just a whole lot changing. And so what kinds of jobs might even be available? Like, how does one raise their hand and say, hey, this is something that I need, or, would identify it's a gap. It's a gap that they need to fill.
Yeah. So I mean, my general preference is not to talk too much about Jump, because we do great stuff, but I actually think our industry and the types of programs that we generate. So I won't speak. I'm going to turn the focus away, for at least my response, and
Sure.
speak more to why the work that we do is so important, and why I've dedicated my life to creating these types of programming for young people. So when we look at I was at this educational innovation conference in France in November, and we were mapping out what does the future of employment look like, and how do we educate to the future of employment. So when you look at 2030 as a year, let's put that out there. Most of the kids that are entering into elementary school or in middle school, that's when they'll be going into a university kind of framework, high school onwards. So when we look at 2030 and beyond, the skill sets that young people are going to need are really around resilience, grit, social emotional understanding, the ability to operate in different environments, in complexity, and evaluate what needs to happen. And so for sure, chemistry class, physics class, there's lots of components of skills that are built from that. But as the world shifts with AI coming into the system, what the future of work looks like is very different, and what universities are going to be looking for is very different. And how you differentiate yourself in that setting as a student who's looking to go to university or looking to get a job is through being able to do storytelling about unique experiences that you've had, how you've grown from those unique experiences, and how you worked with team members around you or classmates around you to achieve an amazing goal of climbing a mountain that no one ever thought they could climb before, or creating a social enterprise or social impact project that you ran that served communities in Cambodia. So what these projects and different experiences, be experiential learning experiences or service learning experiences or outdoor adventure experiences, are really building the baseline skills that are going to allow for young people to succeed in the job market and also get accepted to universities, because that's what they're going to be looking for. And so I think that's when, to answer your question roundabout, like, how does someone know that their kid needs experiential education? I think my argument would be that everybody does. I mean, we're in a world where there's just such high levels of anxiety for young people because they're on their devices. They have the stresses. Like, what do they need most, in my opinion, is what they need is to get out into nature and to have fun and to challenge themselves physically so that they can reset their bodies, they can reset their minds, and they can come back to their academics and thrive. So I think this is one of the challenges. Sometimes people see, leaving the school as, oh, they're going to be away from academic time. But in my experience, and also I think data shows that these trips allow for people to reset stress levels, reset focus, and come back. A lot of schools will say, we love having our experiential education trips in October because kids are, have come back from the summer, they've had a long stretch, they're not at Christmas yet, but this is really a reset. And then when they come back to school, they really have that extra energy to get to the end of the school year. So that's in terms of like roundabout answer to your question. I think really all kids need these experiences, and parents, specifically if your kid is dealing with large levels of anxiety, not having a strong sense of connection to the people around them, is addicted or on their technology too much, or if you feel like you don't have a strong connection with your child, these trips will allow for people to be better connected with themselves. And then that allows them to come off of these trips and be better connected again with their parents. We do a lot of parent coaching in collaboration with parents so that they have a skill set of what questions to ask their kids around the dinner table after they've just, gone to Angkor Wat or whatever the trip is. And so part of it is, our encouragement really is a lot is parents should really see these and engage them as an opportunity to reconnect with their kids in a meaningful way. I don't know, Jake, what I haven't said that you would add to that. Is there anything you'd add?
Well, and I'd love, Jake, if you while you're filling in the gaps or anything you'd like to add, I'd also love to hear about just sort of the anatomy of a trip. You know what I mean? Like the anatomy of an experience in terms of what does it look like for the learner or what does it look like for the parents? Just to, sort of kind of bring some life to it, because it's just make it less theoretical and sort of take us through one like Angkor Wat or Cambodia or something, whatever it is, like just take us through one of the experiences.
We might have lost Jake.
Uh-oh. You still there, Jake? Did you hear me?
Sorry. I put my microphone on mute. Some
Okay.
of the team had lunch just outside the room. So really the experience starts with a needs assessment between Jump and the school that we're working with. This will highlight academic and pastoral needs from the school. And there's a lot of detail that goes into this. So typically we work with year group academic leaders and pastoral leaders who know these students really well. And then we intentionally design the program and the themes of the program and the activity components around those needs. And so, for example, if we're looking to foster better sort of cultural understanding and awareness, seeing as a lot of international students are coming from the same social economic groups and similar demographics to each other, how do we break out of those confinements and those walls? So we might take them, to Cambodia, for example, and visit Angkor Wat and engage with community members throughout the program. And we intentionally design specific activities that allow the students the autonomy and self-agency on how they actually engage in that activity. So we'll give them parameters and we give them resources. We give them framing from our expert instructors and facilitators to empower them with all of the information they need to then take themselves on a journey through an activity block, for example. So this might look like interviewing market vendors and finding out how they've been impacted by different shifts to the economy, for example, or other industries that have taken root in their area of operation. So is there anything else you would like me to speak to on
No,
that?
sorry. I thought we had a little hiccup in our connection there. I apologize. I was waiting for the connection to come back. I apologize there. No, that's fantastic. Thanks. I really appreciate that. So again, Justin, I'll offer you this one. Again, just sort of for the people who are going to either they're listening live now or going to listen to the recording of this conversation, talk to me from a parent's perspective about, how do I balance, this is great for my child and this is going to help them to, we're kind of taking a risk and putting them out there with, this group of students or with your organization, and kind of talk through that balance of how do I create a wonderful experience, but also allow my student, my child to let go and let my child sort of take some risks and grow in a different way.
Yeah. So I think that there's, oh, sorry, Jake, I think you're cutting out. I'll jump in. I think that there is a dynamic around when we look at what is safe. I think parents have perceived risk and actual risk. A lot of these experiences, you want to use actual risk levels that are low, but the students perceive that the risk level is high because it helps create this environment of growth. And so when you're working with parents, part of it is helping parents understand the difference between what is actual risk, meaning at what point is there some potential risk? And so a lot of it is around parent education and understanding that. And so that's a good provider, a good school does a lot of parent education around here's how we're managing risk. We breathalyze bus drivers before they go on the trip. We've done a site visit. We've evaluated, all the rooms have fire alarms. All of that is what we would call the pre-trip risk assessments, and also then communicating. One of the things that I, as a professional in experiential education and as a parent now myself, I'm really the philosophy of to prepare young people to be successful in the future, they have to take safe risks and they have to learn through those safe risks. And we really practice the concept of the best person to manage a risk is a student. Now, you have to have adults around the system supporting them to make sure they're making the right decisions. But the primary person is a student has to be able to identify that is a risk. And I want to either manage that risk myself or ask for some help from an adult to manage that risk or ask for help from one of my peers to manage the risk. And so we work a lot around managing risks through training students in doing risk assessments and understanding what is true risk. Then we also do a comprehensive training. Our facilitators are world-class, first aid trained, all that kind of stuff. And then also training educators. But part of it is also around training parents of how they can work with their students to increase the competencies of young people to self-manage risk. So that when they go off and are independent in Bangkok, walking around the city, they're using some of those concepts of risk management that they learned when they were in 6th grade rock climbing. They're using that same sort of risk management framework when they're making life choices out on the street in Bangkok, or when they get to university, they're utilizing some of those choices. And so parents have to see this not as a risky thing that we need to keep our kids from, but essentially a way for them to train students and their young people to become better at making good choices later on in life because they're going through a safe risk environment. Did I answer your question, Steven?
Yeah, no, I love it. That's exactly right. That's exactly what I was looking for. Jake, I'd love to give you another opportunity to chime in here. I know that we're having a little bit of an internet hiccup here, but something that I think would be really fantastic to hear is if you're able to offer, for lack of a better term, a case study, right? So here's student X and here's how they transformed over, by taking a particular trip or having a particular experience with a group or, and obviously, we don't have to name names or anything like that, but I'd love to kind of get a real world example of how confidence was built or how, someone became a bigger risk taker or how they were able to integrate in groups or how anxiety was reduced, those kinds of things. Do you have those kinds of stories you tell?
Yeah, so I mean, if I'm completely honest, we in the way that we work with the schools, we have to be very careful about how we share student information. And so we don't typically advertise individual stories or growth journeys for students. We do collect and measure impact on students through our programming. And we have a very thorough system for collecting data on the impact achieved. And that is all compiled into end of program reports and shared with parents and with the schools. What I can say is, and I've been on many programs now here with Jump, I've personally witnessed many transformational journeys with students, and typically with the schools that we work with, these journeys often look like transformation from being quite insular and maybe very sort of segregated, very small friendship groups, a lack of confidence in how to approach outdoor elements, even things like insects or bugs or dirt, having like a real ingrained fear of these things as well. And over the course of a week, being the first to jump into the water or to roll around in the dirt, to offer somebody that they're not comfortable with normally or isn't in their normal friendship circle, hey, do you want to come and get involved in this with me? Or putting their hand up, self-selecting to lead an activity or an experience. They're the types of transformations that you do witness a lot in the field through our programs. We did actually with one student at one of our sort of long-standing partner schools, we filmed the journey as part of our Heroes Journey, which is a Mardi Himal hike in Nepal. And so this student had been on many programs of Jump over the years, and the school decided it would be a great way to showcase the Heroes Journey, as it's called, the program, by filming the student from start to finish. And the results of that were really compelling, but this isn't something that we share out to the wider market. It's not like marketing material that we use. So yeah, it's very hard for me to extract singular case studies for you to for this presentation, but yeah, we have many examples that we can speak to.
I love it.
And statements as well that we can share with parent communities as well.
Just let me, there's a couple of questions from our community I want to get to here, but I want to offer Justin just the opportunity, like, again, in that same vein of the avatar, right? So the results, tell me about some of the parent feedback that you get, when it's like, wait, hey, like my child was this, and, they've gone through a couple of experiential learnings and I've seen how they transformed, or, we keep coming back because, wow, we've seen that. Like, what kind of feedback are you getting from parents?
Yeah, so I think that there's two different journeys. So one journey, and Jake's talked about this, is we partner a lot with schools and where we run a trip. And so on that journey, as part of that, we also give parents some questions to ask at the dining room table that I referred to. And one of the key questions is, what is something that you learned about yourself that you didn't know on this trip? And so the parent asked in the next dinner back, like, what's something you learned about yourself that you didn't know? And I think the resounding feedback from parents when they tell us what they hear is that they had no idea that that's how their child identified in terms of what they were possible of doing or what their dream was. Or so the element of these questions and the journeys that we create, students are going through this self-exploration. And so that parents then become way more aware of who their child wants to be, or what their child's ideas are, of what they want the future to look like, or what their dreams are. For example, one of our activities is we get kids to, at the top of a hike, identify what's like one of their big life challenges and goals that they want to achieve. And so they hike for 5 days, and then they write it on a rock with a permanent marker, and they put it on the rock. And their challenge after they put it there is to go back and tell your parents, what's the one thing that you want to achieve in your life that's going to be extremely hard and difficult, and then ask them to be your champions in your journey. So they leave the mountain, they go back home, and then their parents ask them this question, and then their response is, this is one really hard thing that I want to achieve in my life, and I need you to help be my champion as my parent. Now, as that is a transformational moment for a lot of parents to have the help in facilitating that conversation, that dialogue in the way that we do. I think that's one of the positive pieces of feedback that we get. And then for our journeys that are not connected to schools, which we're running independently, I think that the main piece of feedback that parents get is that it was amazing for our child to have a young adult or a young person that can be their mentor and support them in a way that they don't have. And I think that's, historical cultures had lots of different adults helping young people. And in our current culture, it's really parents, immediate family, and maybe some teachers. But this gives, it's a different perspective, and it allows for young people to spend 10 days exploring and adventuring, and have a mentor. Our facilitators, we call them, our instructors, actually become pretty strong mentors to most of the youth, and they maintain relationships in terms of after they go off to university and they're dealing with a challenging situation, they may ask for help from that mentor later on. So it creates an additional sort of ally and mentor for their young person. I think parents really enjoy that.
Fantastic. Thanks. You just answered one of the questions from Michelle Tan. She was asking if you offer programs independently other than through school. So obviously that's true. Second question comes from Daniel Green. Can you tell me if you offer programs during the term time as well as after school, or are they only sort of these 10-day sort of holiday camp kind of programs?
Yeah, so we have programs embedded inside the school program. So it'll be inside the curriculum. I mean, most big international schools in Thailand we work with, we operate NIST, International Schools Outdoor Education Program. And so we work with a lot of the big schools, and it's embedded inside it's considered a co-curricular program. So it's a mandated program. And then we also have International Year Award programmings that happen on the weekends. And then we have holiday and summer programming that happens. Those are called our expeditions. And so we have 2 sets of expeditions for middle school and high school kids in Bangkok, and then 2 sets in Canada for kids to go to Canada and explore Canada for 2 weeks.
Fantastic. Justin, Jake, I want to offer you the opportunity to put anything else on the table here before we wrap up our conversation. Jake, I'll give you the final word. What's something that you're super excited about for either JUMP or for experiential learning in general that we haven't talked about here, or that you'd like to put on the table?
Yeah, so with JUMP, I'll start with JUMP. Our impact with Bridge to Employment, I think we've done amazing things. Our impact team here, bringing students from underserved communities well on their way to further education and actually helping to secure scholarships to universities for students here in Thailand. So that's something that really excites me, seeing how we continue to scale that impact as we grow as an organization. For experiential education as a whole, what excites me is realizing how we can leverage AI within schools to strengthen experiential education and the delivery of formal, more academic education as well, and how we can integrate experiential learning more into traditional academic study. I think the world is our oyster when we start realizing the full potential of how we can leverage AI tools, for example. So that's something that really excites me.
I love that. Justin, anything else that you want to put on there for that, what you're excited about?
Yeah, I think that the dynamic, and to jump off of what Jake was saying, is the future of education is fast evolving, and it's evolving quickly away from traditional structures of education and more to interdisciplinary learning, and social emotional learning, and human development based journeys. And I think that's the space we play in and we innovate in. And so to have a whole sector leaning more into us and into our space, I often have people say you're the most protected in the educational sector right now, because AI can't do what you guys do. And it's super fun, but it's also, I think, what kids need the most. And I think that there's 2 big books that are really important. One is The Anxious Generation. It was just released by Jenny Anderson and Rebecca Winthorpe. And then there's so that's Anxious Generation is not by them. Anxious Generation, and then they did Disengaged Teen. But basically, there's a generation of anxious kids and there's a generation of disengaged kids that I think our our programming and this type of work really levers into the pain points that a lot of parents and schools are feeling around how do we get our kids to care about life, like to get off their phones, and how do we help them manage their mental health. And I think this is the stuff that really does it, and keeps kids healthy and safe for the long term, is giving them the skills to manage risk themselves.
Justin and Jake of the Jump Foundation, thanks so much for taking time out of your busy days to speak with us. I really, really appreciate it. Never least, but you were last in the last presentation here, but we'll now move on to your video presentation, but I hope people will reach out and learn more about it. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Stephen.
Hi, we're here at our jungle camp here in Khao Sok for our Grade 5 Field Studies trip. We work in close partnership with the Jump Foundation to develop this amazing program for our Grade 5 students. By leveraging the local expertise of the Jump team, we're able to develop a program that makes direct curriculum links to what we're doing in the classroom back in Singapore. The theme of this trip is all about life on land, and through this theme, students will experience a range of activities and engagements that will help develop a better understanding of the Sustainable Development Goals. Students will engage with the natural environment here on the program by first going to the national park and exploring different trails, seeing different animals and plants. They have a Q&A with the park rangers to talk about the endangered species in the area.
It was a really long walk, but when we came here, it was definitely worth it. I've never seen a waterfall like this close, like actually being in the water with it. So I think this was, going to be the best experience of the field trip.
Next we head out for Lake Day, where students travel on a longboat to a dry limestone cave to see natural rock formations and bats in their natural habitat.
So we went to Tarzan Island, so we just walked around the trail and saw the places. The boat ride, the water was splashing everywhere and it was very nice.
Are you excited to go on the water?
Yeah.
I learned how insects kind of grow and develop and how they change from one shape to the next. It was a bit scary because not all of the insects were very friendly, but it was also fun.
Today we are in this river trying to find rocks and scratching them to get paint and try to put it on our faces. It's very hard to find, but I found some.
This experience really helps students to be able to develop their independence and organisational skills, where they look after their belongings for the week, where they are able to advocate for themselves, where they socialise with peers outside of the classroom, and we see enormous growth in all of the students that attend these programs.